as promised, you all know I wasn't about to leave Future Redeemed out of this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, a bit ago I did a video called The Best Scene of Every Chapter of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is one of my favorite Xenoblade videos that I've done to date, so check it out if you haven't. It's hot. It was a lot of fun to see you guys' responses. At the end of that, I said I would do one like or similar for the other Xenoblade games and the DLCs, to which I followed up with Xenoblade 2's best and underrated scenes and how they redefined everything. So check that one out too, it also slaps. But let's circle back to Xenoblade 3 for Future Redeemed and whether y'all figured out which scene it would be, because honestly this was pretty close. But in my eyes, the best scene of Future Redeemed is the scene called Ghondor's Path, which of course by itself is great, but preceded by two strong segues into it as well, and I feel like I can't skip out on those. So I guess we can have those be our honorable mentions. But as far as the best scene goes, you can imagine why this one won, but let's start from the top because it gets deep. It connects back to so many other moments of Future Redeemed and the base game of Xenoblade 3, fitting so perfectly and making them even better. So before the Ghondor's Path scene in question, there's two others before, and I feel I need to briefly mention them real quick just to lay a little bit of foundation. The first is called Part of the Deal. This scene is before they fight N, and it gives a little tidbit into why N is really trying to kill Matthew, only really revealed as Matthew gets more pissed that N isn't being straight about his reasoning. This part I just enjoyed Matthew's cutting to the chase along with Rex just telling N how twisted he is for not even trying to save Nael, who is his great granddaughter. But all that's just another tip towards N's resolve we learn more of at the end of chapter 3 when he fought Alpha at the lake, who tried to make him falter, mentioning how he took Nael as his host, but N only says he's divorced himself of all that, all misgivings gone. And of course this little piece connected to the scene that comes after the fight called Origins Memories, which I brought up not just because of the sick choreography in the post-battle showdown with the layers of Shulk defending Nicole and then supporting Glimmer so she can combo with Rex, and Matthew once again trying to get in to see some sense. But this scene proceeds all the way up to the moment you actually fight N as Alpha. What we see when Matthew's Ouroboros energy clashes with N's sword and gets sent into Origin is his memories of the day that city fell. And why I love this scene too, and had to mention it before the biggest one, for one is what better of a tone setter it is for making the grave and isolating feeling Ghondor is experiencing be put onto the players, because you can see him get there, then he sees the fire and light erupting from the city. It gives you a shaky cam view from behind him as he runs in, explosions popping off everywhere. And then when he sees the source of the light and head towards it, Alpha as Nael notices him and looks, and then it zooms out and the crowd around him sharply looks at him too, which immediately makes him stop. How much creepier and unsettling can you get for a quick shot? 2 to 3 seconds, something is up. And the way they executed that instant distrust from Ghondor in Nael's hypnotic and accepting open-armed approach to get him and Matthew to join into leaving this world to go to a new one, so good. I love every bit of this. Goes into Ghondor knowing this is Nael speaking, then the explosion continuing to pop off, reminding them the situation around them as the music dies down to signal another threat is here, and then N shows up with Origin mobs. How can I not appreciate the literal moment Ghondor sees his father again? A moment I didn't think we'd get to really see fully, but just like that we get to see the strong grandfather Ghondor turn into a child again, pleading to N with a shaky voice. Why are you doing this, father? I did it. I did what you asked and made friends, so why won't you say something to me? And he doesn't. Alpha answers for him. The cheeky part is at this point any personal question N just straight up doesn't answer, but as soon as Ghondor asks Alpha what he's done to Nael, N has all the answers. Who he is, his plan, and Alpha who voices his own version, and responding with the will of Moebius to stop him, almost like N and Alpha play a tug of war with Gondor's emotions and focus as he just learns the whole truth. N doesn't even bother to refer to Alpha as a person but just a thing, saying it, which technically isn't entirely incorrect in a literal sense. But anyways, after that they fight and we truly get fed with finally the scene Ghondor's Path. We all got to know the scene because it hit different on first seeing it, and I can't only discuss the best moment of it, but every strength it has because there's many focal points and sneaky implications. The first being the boost to the Moebius concept and N's stoicism shattering. After the battle we get to see a beautiful choreographed fight between Alpha and N in which they exchange hits and the resolves clash through words and even swings. Alpha's shocked at N's power, saying he's just a Moebius, which really ups just how clear and powerful of a threat Moebius truly was, which I feel like 3 made clear by how many throwaway or goofy Moebius there were. Some people I feel like lost respect, but me personally, I'm a big fan of Moebius as a villain group. And when you really think about their capabilities, it's only Ouroboros that can hang with them outside of exceptional people like Ethel and Kamaravi and some others. So hearing this was nice, but it was also coupled with N's response that Alpha would never understand because this was his choice. He had resolved himself to do this a long time ago. And then comes the most interesting line, a great back and forth of ideals, one betting everything on the future and one betting everything on keeping things how they are, both believing the other is abandoning something. Alpha believes that N is abandoning the potential of a new world, of a new life, new experiences, whereas in N's heart, he believes Alpha is forsaking all that is the current world, its people who they're tied to, refusing to believe that letting go is the solution. As we know N, he is hell-bent on keeping his choice intact, that he made the correct choice no matter the sacrifice eternally. They both are pretty locked into their belief, that's why they must wipe out the other. That's when Ghondor comes into the picture and we hit the fan. When Alpha is knocked away, he assumes Nael's personality to appeal to Ghondor to get him on his side. And if you think back to chapter 3 and Alpha's fight with N, Alpha tried this same thing on Matthew and N was like, really? Again, Alpha? So we finally get to see what had happened the very first time, Alpha's manipulation tactics, and it worked, causing Ghondor to step in front of Alpha to save Nael, taking the stab from N. And we get to see the apex of the scene and the first surprise for N. And straight up didn't see that coming, so he gasps in surprise, not only for that, because this is his son. And best part is Ghondor doesn't even get upset or angry or frustrated. He knows there's no point in that, so he doesn't beg, but he pleads and appeals to N. He says, Nael is your family. I can't let you do this. Even though he just sacrificed himself, he values Nael way more than his own life because her and Matthew are the future of this world. But just for them, Gondor's resolve is already solid, but him killing Nael when she's not even in control is just too much for him to let happen. Even when Ghondor asks about Mum, asks about Mio, asks about M, and gasps in surprise and falters even more when Ghondor asks if she wanted this too. You can hear N's voice just quivering in pain as he says,
"You don't need to know. The burden is mine alone to bear."
What makes this a real heart-to-heart is we get to see the real N peek through again. He's in early stages of his Moebius life, but it's still so hard for him to keep up. But this moment is a game changer. Ghondor just winces and reaffirms that he's sure that Mio wouldn't want this and will say to just let it go, which shows how much he knows not just her, but him. He knows it must be something so painful for him to commit to this. He isn't just evil because he wants to be, and no matter what, he cannot choose this path and can't even respond any further than saying Gondor's name. Even with as strong as we see his resolve fueled by his broken self is, this event is what sends him even further into despair. He internalizes what Gondor says, which hopes to get N to finally be free in the end, but it isn't enough. This is where I once again tie N into Star Wars, just like in my N character dive analysis video. Check that out if you haven't already and subscribe for more of that. That was a really good video. Go check it out, I'll link it below. It's incredible how close of a tie-in N is to Anakin Skywalker. Watch that video for the full comparison in my eyes, like N being Anakin, Zed being Palpatine, but the connection here is about Ghondor and by extension Matthew. One of the only things that could get N to falter and set in a better path is his son. In N's case, Ghondor, unlike Luke, wasn't able to fully do it in the end, but he made a huge impact on him through his kind words and sacrifice, and Matthew did similarly, but more on that in a bit. But then right there as Matthew shows up, we get what's probably my favorite section, all thanks to the musical flair, and we get the full version of what we've seen flashbacks of. Ghondor sees him and tells him that this is the path that he's chosen, looks back at N, and they both just wince at each other. In a standstill, one person has to make a move, and it's Ghondor. He unleashes all his Ouroboros power, and we see him use one last strike against Alpha, which ended up creating A by extension. The way the screen flashed to white and hard cuts to a back view of N just staring at the flames as the music hits the climax. Oh, it's just so good. We get a close-up shot of N's face, typical to see the expression, but then M appears, connecting to the scene we see in chapter 6 where she snaps on him for what he's done. But here, you see when she first appears, she not only is in shock and horror, but she actually looks super worried about him in a way that's wondering how he's handling this, along with, did you really do this? In a sad way. All before she presses him, of course, like we see in the original game. Then they give us exactly a confirmation of that by re-showing N's face, but much more zoomed in, with a shadow around the edges, some slight darker green discoloration, exaggerating N's feelings of sinking deeper and deeper into darkness and despair, making another weight on his heart. Flashback ends. Everybody's seen it, and we get the icing on the cake. It's so important that we got this moment of Matthew not only coming to terms with what truly happened that day, but he literally tries knocking some sense into N, and then just lets it happen. That spoke volumes to me. That's really telling him that what Ghondor meant wasn't that he was siding with N, but that giving all the people of the city and this world up to Alpha wasn't the way to go, and neither was allowing themselves to be killed by N. N knew all of these things, just like everything else. He knows all of this, and that's why as Matthew hits him and continues to talk, he just takes the hit and stays down on his knee, just absorbing it all, because he knows this. So why is he going to get mad? And then right before N gets beamed up by Alpha, we get a nice callback moment from Matthew. Glimmer is confused on why he's leaving N there because he's Moebius, and Matthew says, if you try something like that again, I'll sock him another one. This was a family matter through and through, excluding the family part. Doesn't that sound real familiar? Think about it. Actually, you know what? I think I'll help you out again.
I realized
that we both share the same pain. Egil, I don't have any reason to kill you.
Even if you do not, I still do.
I know. But I won't do it.
If you do not kill me now, my blade will annihilate every last one of your people. Even then.
I can't kill you, but I can stop your blade. And I'll do it. Over and over again until we understand each other. Okay?
You have used the Monado well.
Hey, he was sounding real Shulk-like to me. Hey, that may not have been intentional, but I think it works out anyway. And I don't think there's any better way to end out the best scene of Future Redeemed, in my eyes at least. Now there is one more honorable mention I have, and it's the moment in chapter 3 when they took down the flame clock together, playing the weight of life with both the good choreography, the fast pacing, the yelling of all three, the teamwork for each pair. Oh, that was just so hype, so hype. Masters and apprentices, new partners, all from different iterations of the games, man. Beautiful. But yeah, that's it for the best scene of Future Redeemed. Let me know what you all think. What is your favorite scene from Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed, and which do you think is the best? And what did you think about this one? Check out my Moebius and character dive if you haven't already. That will be in the description below, and links to my other social media like Twitter and Twitch are below, so follow me there for updates and some exclusive content. But hashtag Ghondor on your comment. If you stayed this long, that's the secret code. Hey, shout out to y'all. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you all in the next one.